So I think we can start. My name is Castro Verala, and it's my honor to welcome you all to this conference. Honored guests, speakers, friends, and colleagues, as the convener and host, I welcome you all to the Berlin Conference on Myanmar Genocide, which takes place at the W. Michael Blumenthal Academy, the Jewish Museum in Berlin. Today we, scholars, activists, experts on human rights and genocide studies, came all together to talk about a genocide happening right now, happening in front of our eyes. The conference has caused kind of a turmoil, as there are lots of people to whom it doesn't seem adequate to talk about a genocide, as according to them, there is no sign of a genocide happening against the Rohingya people. As according to them, we should celebrate the democratic transition of Myanmar. Others are accusing the conference of comparing the atrocities we are witnessing in Myanmar to what had happened to the victims of the Shoah or Holocaust. It has never been a good idea to compare crimes against humanity. It has never been a good idea to hierarchize atrocities committed against different social groups at different times, under different circumstances, in different ways. There is no need to compare. We are accusing the Myanmar government of a genocide, and there are legal criteria in place to that. The suffering of hundreds of thousands of Rohingya people is too severe to use it for a simple and banal, cynical provocation. It is too severe to play political games and tactics. It was 1944 when Raphael Lemkin, who coined the term genocide, wrote that a genocide, and I quote, is a coordinated plan of different actions aiming at the destruction of essential foundations of the life of national groups with the aim of annihilating the groups themselves. On December 9, 1948, in the shadow of the Holocaust, and due to the tireless efforts of Lemkin himself, a Polish lawyer himself, the United Nations approved the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The Convention establishes genocide as an international crime which signatory nations undertake to prevent and also to punish. According to the Convention, genocide means that of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such, killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent birth within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. 5 independent academic and legal studies of Myanmar's persecution and plight of the Rohingya, including the Permanent People's Tribunal on Myanmar, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, the Loewenstein International Human Rights Clinic at Yale Law School, the International State Crime Initiative of Queen Mary University of London, and the Pacific Rim Law and Policy Journal of the University of Washington School of Law, have arrived at a single common conclusion, that there is mounting evidence of a genocide against the Rohingya. Rakhine State in western Myanmar, Burma, has been home to at least 800,000 Muslims, most of whom self-identify as Rohingya. For decades, they have suffered legal and social discrimination. In 1982, the citizenship law stripped Rohingyas of their citizenship and even the right to self-identify. Rohingya people were transformed into a non-existent group, stateless and vulnerable to violence committed by the state actors and also the civil society in Burma alike. Consequently, they have often been called the most persecuted minority in the world. The Rohingya were subject to many restrictions in day-to-day life, banned from traveling without authorization and prohibited from working outside their villages. They cannot marry without permission, and due to movement restrictions, they lack sufficient access to livelihood opportunities, medical care, and also education. But we are not talking only about social discrimination and what self-proclaimed experts like to call ethnic tensions, as by all various credible media reports, academic studies, and also legal reports, we are witnessing crimes against humanity, including the crime of all crimes, genocide, against a religious and ethnic minority group with a distinct identity and history. We have evidence that Rohingya are killed, raped, and that there is an incredible violence against them carried out by Myanmar troops and local collaborators. And we also know that Rohingyas for a long, long time are forced to live under inhuman conditions: poor public health, low literacy, poor nutrition, high infant mortality, and the restrictions on the physical movement of Rohingyas of all age and gender that have been so severe that the residential areas are often referred to as open vast prisons, have resulted in waves of exodus over the last 40 years. A report released in early September by the Burma Human Rights Network documents the rise of systemic abuses against Rohingya people since 2012, including the creation of what is called Muslim-free zones, the denial of ID cards, and the banning of Islamic holidays. And, as Hannah Arendt remarked, crimes against humanities are not just inhuman acts. Rather, they threaten the very possibility of humanity as such. It's what she calls the human status. And I agree with Robert Meister's observation that the cost of achieving a consensus that the past is evil is to agree that the evil is past. We are here because we disagree. We think that the past is evil and the evil is not past. The Berlin conference coincides with the EU foreign ministers' meeting where Myanmar policy will be reviewed. It's our hope that the European Union rethinks the rhetoric of democratic transition and instead helps to mobilize world's political will to end the Myanmar genocide. Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak will close this historical conference with a keynote she titled, "Let's focus on the law, but think justice." And it is justice that we are seeking. We need the law, but that won't suffice. We need more than that, for one simple reason. If we are committed to what Frantz Fanon once called a new humanism, then we might listen to Arendt's reminder that the only guarantee against genocide is to acknowledge that evildoers are not aliens, they are not monsters, but humans. A very terrifying thought. If we seek to find evildoers, we should not look out for monsters, we should look out for humans. Don't try to find evidence in the great narratives of great experts. Look at the ground. Listen to the small voices of history. Open your eyes and have the courage to talk about. As Rosa Luxemburg once said, the most revolutionary thing one can do is always to proclaim loudly what is happening. Crimes against humanity are happening in Myanmar. Let us talk about it. Let us take our time to talk about it on this historical conference, because if we take the reminder of Hannah Arendt seriously, we are all Rohingyas. Let me finish with a vote of thanks to the institutions and individuals that made this conference possible. There are a lot of institutions that helped us to be able to put this conference together. There is first, of course, the Michael Blumenthal Academy, and I want to especially thank Dr. Yasemin Schoman, the director of the Academy. There is the Alice Salomon University of Applied Science of Berlin, the Institute for Comparative Literature and Society from the Columbia University, the Center for the Study of Genocide and Justice of Liberation War Museum in Bangladesh, the Genocide Watch, the Center for the Human Rights Research and Education, the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights, the Montreal Institute for Genocide and Human Rights Studies, the Euro-Burma Office in Canada, the Sloik Reid Institute, and also the Center for International Human Rights from Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. And there are a lot of people who individually helped us. But let me thank some of them, and please forgive those who I can't mention because I couldn't remind them today in the morning because there are so many who helped us here. First of all, I want to ask Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, who once in the middle of the night called me up and asked me if I would be willing to try to organize a conference in Berlin. She's coming, she's already arrived in Berlin, but will first talk in the morning on a conference on Roma culture and will then come in the afternoon to talk to us and to be with us in this very important conference. I also want to thank Volker Egner from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who helped us out to get quickly the visas needed for the Burmese and Bangladeshi delegates. And I want to thank Jung Hee Lee for taking the time to join the conference. She would have loved to be here in person, but because of a private problem, she couldn't make it in person, but she's here with us on Skype. And I was also thank Irvin Kotler for sending the videotape remark, which calls for protected repatriation of Rohingyas to protected homeland in Myanmar, and also Ambassador David Sheffer for taking the time to join the conference electronically. One of the main supporters is Han Yang-wi, Burmese professor U Kya Win, Ku Ang, and Mark Sampson, human rights activist from UK. And we have a lot of help from the Tamil community, especially from Sangar, and we have also help from the Bangladeshi community, for example, by Iqbal Tuhin and by Professor Abra, and also the trustee Mofidul, who is here from Bangladesh. And we have also friends here from Bosnia who will talk to us on the panel on European perspectives. And there are a lot of friends and students of mine who helped with little and big things to make this possible. Before I give the floor to the first speaker, which will be Margaret Bause, member of the German Parliament and the Human Rights Commission of the Bundestag from Alliance 90, the Greens, who kindly offered to open the conference, let me inform you about some really minor changes in the program. In the second panel, we had Ko Ang. He couldn't make it because he was not allowed to travel with the documents that he had in hand. But we have Professor Kya Win, who will supplement him. This is the second panel. And then we have a special appearance by Arvind Kotler, who is the founder and chair of the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights and professor of law at McGill University. He wanted to be there on Skype, but there's a clash with another event that he had. So he sent a video recorded 2.5 minutes address to us. And we have another address by Matthew Smith from 45 Rights. And then, unfortunately, also the director of the German Institute of Human Rights and the chairperson of Global Alliance of Human Rights, Professor Beate Rudolph, can't be here because she was called to Geneva to talk to the UN General Secretary. But we have a Bosnian colleague, Demir Mahmud Hajir, who will supplement her to talk about the European perspectives on panel 4. And that's about the changes. We have a very, very dense program, so we have to be very strict with timing. And sorry for that, but on the panel, everybody will have possibility to talk for about 5 to 10 minutes. And we want also to give you all the opportunity to discuss with all the experts that are here all together to talk about the Myanmar genocide. Thank you all for coming. We are honored, and we are hoping to have an interesting and conference which will end with a resolution and with a vigil in front of the Holocaust Memorial. And we will meet after the conference in the Brandenburg Gate and will together go to the Holocaust Memorial. And there we will think about this very, very important saying, never again. And we will talk about that there have been genocides and then there are genocides, and we hope that never again will once a day come true. Thank you so much for coming. And now I give the floor to Margaret Bause from the Alliance 90, the Greens. Thank you so much.